This is why you should never stop in the middle of nowhere. It was 2:13 a.m., and my GPS had led me down a road near Appalachian National Scenic Trail. I saw a car stopped in the middle of the road, its taillights flickering. I slowed down. There were big scratches on car doors as some bear almost ripped the door. I panicked, and as I was about to reverse when I saw something move so fast from rear. Panic surged. I had no choice but to drive around the car. Just as I did, a woman appeared by the road, waving frantically. Her clothes were torn, and her eyes were wide with terror. I stopped, and she jumped in. "Please, help me," she gasped. "They're coming." So I asked, while freaking out. "The ones from the woods." They never let anyone leave. I sped off, but I saw guys with masks running for us with machetes. The woman screamed, and I accelerated and ran away from death itself. This is why you should never stop in the middle of nowhere. It was 1:25 a.m., and my GPS led me down the road near Castle Brook. Suddenly, a massive fallen tree blocked my path. I went out to inspect and noticed muddy footprints leading into the woods. Before I could react, a group of people in clown masks emerged from the fog. Panicking, I jumped back into my car, but it wouldn't start. The clowns surrounded me, one of them tapping on the window with a crowbar. The engine finally started just as the driver's side window was shattered by one of those freaks. I reversed, scattering the clowns, and took a random side road, hoping to escape. A sudden fog filled up the air, and as I looked ahead, the road ended abruptly at a dead end, a crumbling brick wall blocking any further escape. Trapped, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the clowns advancing again, their laughter filling the night. There was no way out. This is why you should never drive home alone at night. I was driving back home from my late shift on Friday night. The road was empty. Suddenly, my car stalled. I stepped out to check under the hood, though I knew little about cars. I noticed something, or someone moved past me in a split second. I screamed while freaking out. I ran inside the car in a panic state, and somehow my car's engine started, and I ran away. After a few minutes, a car appeared behind me, tailgating aggressively. Then, its headlights disappeared. I pulled over, panicked. Suddenly, there was tapping on my back window. I turned and saw a man, eyes wild, clothes torn, mouthing words I couldn't hear. I sped away and reached a gas station. Breathless, I ran into the convenience store. I called the cops while my whole body was shaking with fear. I only got out of the store when the cops arrived. As I was telling them what had happened, I saw scratches on my car's back window and my name was written on it. This is why you should never ignore the warnings of locals. I was on a road trip through a remote village when the locals warned me not to drive past the old cemetery at night. Ignoring their warnings, I continued my journey. As I approached the cemetery, I felt uneasiness, and my car's headlights flickered. Despite pressing the gas pedal, the car slowed down, as if it were carrying a heavy load. I felt someone was sitting on the passenger seat, but I was too scared to look. Sweat trickled down my face despite the freezing temperature outside. The car continued to slow down, and the weight felt unbearable. Just as panic began to creep in, I pressed the gas pedal harder. Finally, as I drove out of the cemetery's radius, the weight lifted, the ghostly presence vanished, and the car felt light again. I drove straight through the night, never looking back, haunted by the memory of that ghostly passenger. The fear from that experience clung to me long after it was over, leaving me terrified of driving alone at night. Even now, the thought of passing by a cemetery fills me with dread, and I always heed the warnings of locals, avoiding places that seem too quiet and too dark. This is why you should never give a lift to any stranger. It was a cold night when I picked up a guy on Mount Misery Road near West Hills County Park. He claimed his car broke down, and despite a nagging doubt, I agreed to give him a lift to the nearest gas station. As we drove, I noticed his nervous glances and fidgeting. Suddenly, his voice deepened, taking a strange tone, and his eyes turned pitch black. I almost passed out as he started screaming, a sound that scared the hell out of me. Fear gripped me. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I cruised at 80 miles per hour. I did not even dare to look at my left side because in my mind I knew if I look at him, he will kill me for sure. I felt utterly helpless, trapped with this possessed stranger. Finally, I spotted the gas station lights ahead. With every ounce of strength, I pulled into the station and jumped out, screaming for help. The station attendant, seeing my terror, called the police. By the time they arrived, the guy had vanished, leaving no trace of his existence.